You are now listening to the Box Seat Boys podcast.
What's up, guys? It's Josh back with another episode of the Box Seat Boys, and we're going to start this episode off with, was it a catch or not? That was the biggest, controversy of the weekend in sports. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, we're going to start our headline section with that.
Box Seat Boys Sports Headlines.
So if you don't know, the Patriots won a game on a controversial call. If you're not a Patriots fan, you're probably like, shocker. That's how they always win. Regardless, here's what happened. So the tight end, James, for Pittsburgh, caught a ball in the end zone, well, just short. And as he turned, dove, the ball hit the ground. Steelers fans, even some Patriots fans, are all up in arms on if this was a catch or not. Obviously, if you wanted the Steelers to win, you're going to say it's a catch. Patriots fans say it's not. What happened was the ref said he didn't have complete control. As he was going to the ground, the ball hit the ground. It was still moving, and they labeled it no catch. They go on. 2 plays later, Big Ben goes to fake spike it, throw a slant into the end zone. It gets tipped in the air and then intercepted, and the Patriots won the game, keeping them basically in contention for the number 1 seed, first round bye, home field advantage, all of that. So to kick it off, we're going to start with the rule. So Rule 8, Section 1, Article 3, Item 1. This is what it says in the rule book. A player is considered to be going to the ground if he does not remain upright long enough to demonstrate that he is clearly a runner. If a player goes to the ground in the act of catching a pass, with or without contact by an opponent, he must maintain control of the ball until after his initial contact with the ground. Whether in the field of play or in the end zone, if he loses control of the ball and the ball touches the ground before he regains control, the pass is incomplete. If he regains control prior to the ball touching the ground, the pass is considered completed. Here's the issue. I can see it either way. Reading the rule, to me, it's not a catch. The ball clearly hit the ground, didn't maintain possession. The knee hit the ground. It looked like he wasn't touched, by the way, by a Patriots player until he was in the end zone. So his knee hit the ground after he, quote unquote, made the catch. And then as he turned to lean into the end zone, the ball started moving. So to me, when I first saw it, I thought it was a catch. And if I don't take the actual rule into consideration, it's a catch. It looked like he had control. It looked like he lost it. The definition of a football move, as people have brought to my attention, if he catches the ball and then as he turns and then reaches for the goal line, is that considered enough of a football move where it should be either a fumble or he crossed the plane so it's a touchdown? I can see it that way, but because of the rule and how it's stated, I think the refs got it right. They went back, officials, previous officials, everything like that, believe the call was made correctly. It's going to be one of those that's going to be up for debate for a long time. It's going to be up for a long time. I know people have brought up the whole Dez catch. I know people have said Patriots have won games previously because of this rule, in the fact that it was ruled a catch for them. So really what it comes down to is it needs to be, regardless of how it's ruled in the future, it needs to be consistent. So if this isn't a catch, it can't be a catch ever again. Really the biggest thing that stands out to me is he must maintain control after initial contact with the ground is made. So that happened with his knee. Now, the ref said he was losing control, didn't have full control of the ball. Therefore, he needed to regain control before it touched the ground, and it didn't. So if you watch that and you think that he didn't regain control and you thought he lost control at one point, there's one side of it. If you're a Steelers fan, like many that I've talked to, and you think that he never lost control, he was reaching for the goal line, then you have that side. So it was ruled not a catch. I don't disagree with it, and that is what ultimately led to the Patriots winning the game. So here's the biggest takeaway. Regardless of if it's a catch or not, what's Ben Roethlisberger doing? So the Patriots scored. You get like a 77-yard, basically screenplay, short pass. Juju Smith-Schuster runs up the sideline, gets you into the red zone. You get that play that gets called back. You get another play, the clock's running down. You spike the ball, kick a field goal, we're going to overtime. To me, in that scenario, is a win. I mean, you were a 99% chance of losing going into that drive. You had the opportunity to win. It got called back. You can't dwell on it. You go out there, kick the field goal, go to overtime, and not necessarily reset the game, but you take all of the adrenaline out for a little bit, where he fake spikes it, throws the ball into a crowd of people, and the DB for the Patriots, Rowe, made a great play, dove, hit the ball in the air, and it was intercepted, and you lose the game that way. It's really tough to lose a game that way, but at the same time, when you can, same with like the Seahawks back in the Super Bowl. I've seen many memes and all that stuff. Seahawks could have ran it. I understand why the Steelers didn't run it. They didn't have any timeouts. They don't get in. The clock's going to run out. So just spike it and go to overtime. Spike it and go to overtime. I just don't see what you're doing there. And I know you're trying to make a play, catch him off guard. Even if you want to run that play, don't throw it into triple coverage or whatever it was. Throw it out of the back of the end zone. Spike it into the ground. Whatever you have to do. Do not, one, take a sack, or even worse, throw a ball into coverage like that, because it's going to get picked, and it did. So, yes, we can be mad. If you're a Steelers fan, I'm not mad about it, trust me. If you're a Steelers fan, yes, you can be mad about that call. But you could have still had an opportunity to win that game if that play call is not, let's fake spike, throw a slant into triple coverage. It's as simple as that. During the game, the Steelers lost Antonio Brown. Initial report was it was a partial tear in his calf. Now Tomlin is saying that it's a quote-unquote significant leg contusion. So I don't know what the correct diagnosis is, but I do know he's not playing this week. He might be back for the playoffs. I don't know the likelihood of that, but it's a possibility. But what does that mean for the Steelers? If Antonio Brown is out for the playoffs, with Antonio Brown, they're dynamic offense. Easily one of the favorites. And in my opinion, after the way the Patriots played, they still might be my favorite. Without Antonio Brown, they're still a really good offense. You have Le'Veon Bell, Bryant played well, Smith-Schuster played well. You have that tight end, James, who's phenomenal. You have the playmakers on offense. Defense is solid. Towards the end of the game, they got a little soft, but they play a great zone defense. So I still think without Antonio Brown, they'll be okay. But man, with him at 100%, if he comes back, they are a really good team, and in my opinion, the favorite to be in the Super Bowl. Jacksonville is right up there. Jacksonville's a good team. The Patriots got to figure some things out, but they always do late in the season. Playoff time comes around, they play their best football. So, without AB, I think the AFC's open for the Patriots, Steelers, or Jacksonville. Maybe a sleeper comes up and surprises somebody. But right now, we don't have the number 1 seed locked up. We don't have home field locked up or anything like that. So the last 2 weeks are going to be super important. The Steelers have the Texans and the Browns, and the Patriots have the Bills and the Jets, I believe. So, very winnable games for both teams. So it's going to come down to, are the Browns, going to upset the Steelers, the Texans upset the Steelers, the Bills and Jets play the Patriots tough. It's not going to be a situation where you're resting starters, really. I think that leads to a huge end of the season push by both teams to really show what they can do, get the kinks out with their starters and everything like that, which is huge. So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what happens. The Panthers are up for sale. Jerry Richardson is, after his whole paying employees to keep that little misconduct quiet, he is putting them up for sale, and there's a few people that have said, hey, I'm interested, I want in, and one of them was Diddy. Diddy tweeted that he wanted in on buying the Panthers. Steph Curry said he wanted in. Colin Kaepernick, also said he wanted in. I just think he wants to be in the headlines, so we'll see how serious that is. Apparently, Diddy is supposed to be meeting with investors. I don't know when. I don't know if he did today, but he's supposed to be meeting with investors about the opportunity. And I would assume that one of the investors could be, and I think should be, Michael Jordan. He's very big in the North Carolina, Charlotte area. So having Jordan, he clearly has the money, be one of those investors, be part owner of that team. I could see a partnership like that happening. Steph Curry, it would be a little bit more difficult with him being in the league still. I don't know what the deal with Kaepernick is, so we'll see what happens. You're seeing more and more celebrities trying to get into the sports arena. Jay-Z did it a few years back and everything like that. So we'll just see what happens with that. But I don't think Jerry Richardson really had a choice. With the whole misconduct, he had to. He really did. It's unfortunate, but you can't bribe or anything like that employees, especially with the circumstances that it was. So we'll see if Diddy can pull it off, get investors together and everything like that. But that was another huge story this past weekend. Another big story, Teddy Bridgewater hasn't played for 707 days and finally got back into an NFL game. It didn't, he didn't throw for like 8 touchdowns or anything crazy. He didn't play particularly well either at all anyway. But he got a huge standing ovation, which he should. You'd never want to see someone get injured and then miss significant time. He had a lot of promise, a lot of people in Minnesota who were huge on Teddy Bridgewater and turning the franchise of the Vikings around, playoff teams, stuff like that. And it just, that injury killed him, and he got a huge ovation, came in, like I said, didn't play well, but it's just great to see him back out there again. Aaron Rodgers, he played, they lost, so the Packers decided, we're pretty, I don't know if they're 100% eliminated, but they're pretty close to done anyway. They're just going to shut Rodgers down. I understand bringing him back if you have the opportunity. You pretty much have to win out to make the playoffs. And then they lost. So shutting him down, letting him heal. He wasn't 100%. That's the best thing. Don't jeopardize another injury or a setback or something like that because you want to get 3 more games out of him, including the one that just happened, and not make the playoffs. So the risk reward there is it's clear to see that it's the better to sit him. But the NFL, crazy week. With the catch, we also had a referee use an index card to measure a first down, which I've never seen before. So it was just a weird week. It's been a weird season. And who knows what's going to happen the final 2 weeks and into the playoffs. Baseball, we're about 50 days from pitchers and catchers reporting, which baseball junkies, I know that's huge. To me, it doesn't even seem like we're that close. But we are. We're inside 2 months. And there's a lot of, I guess, rumors going on about, big time players. First, the Phillies, they signed Carlos Santana, which to me, that signing makes it seem like they're almost out of the race for Machado. I think Carlos Santana was kind of like, okay, if we don't get Machado, we can still get a big name in Carlos Santana, and I think they're starting to feel Machado slip away, so I think they just went out and got Santana. They're still in the race for Machado, but I think they're starting to realize it's going to be a little bit tougher to get him. Speaking of Manny Machado, there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of teams that are in the hunt. I would be really surprised if he moves, but there's a lot of analysts and experts that do think he's going to go, and right now apparently the Cardinals are the favorite. 5-1 odds to land Machado. You also have the Red Sox, long shots to get him. The White Sox, Yankees, Giants, and Diamondbacks are still involved in trying to work out a deal. A lot of buzz with the Yankees. They seem like a good landing spot. I know I put something on Facebook not long ago, and a lot of people were saying, the Yankees could be a good spot because of the prospects they have, which is what the O's would want. They would want prospects in return. But are they willing to make a deal with an interdivision rival, especially the Yankees? I don't think they would. Just because, like I said, it's interdivision. You're competing to win the division every year, and if you give your best player to that rival, you're in trouble. And then the Yankees are already making splashes with Giancarlo. They're looking at Zach Greinke. They're looking at Garrett Cole. They're trying to get everybody. Evan Longoria has been in the mix for the Yankees. They're legitimate. They don't even care about the luxury tax. They're legitimately just trying to buy a championship. Again, it's not anything new for them, but they're trying to buy another one. And if the Orioles have anything to say about it, they're going to pass, maybe get one less prospect or not as highly regarded prospects and trade him to the National League where they don't see him, 19 times a year or anything like that. So I think the Red Sox and the Yankees are long shots. Any team in the National League that has the prospects, aka the Cardinals and the Giants, have an opportunity. And that's why I think the Cardinals are really listed as that 5-1 favorite to grab him, because you're not playing him so often. You're not competing for, if you do compete playoff wise against the Cardinals, it's in the World Series. So that makes a huge difference there. The Red Sox are trying to get rid of Hanley Ramirez, and it just seems like nobody wants him. They've tried apparently multiple times. They even said, hey, we'll eat some of his 2018 contract. He's due $22.8 million or somewhere around there. So they're willing to eat some of that money to move him. They just signed Mitch Moreland to a 2-year, $13 million deal. They're like the favorite to sign JD Martinez. So it's looking like Hanley's role is diminishing with the Red Sox, especially if they sign JD Martinez. If they sign JD Martinez, I mean, I would start JD Martinez, and then you're looking at Hanley as a $22 million bench player, a $22 million pinch hitter, doubleheader off day starter type deal. So I don't know who's gonna bite is my biggest thing. If they're gonna move Hanley, they're gonna have to package him with prospects. Hey, you want these guys, you got to take Hanley too. They're not going to get a lot for him. They're not going to trade for Machado and send Hanley there. It's not going to happen. It's going to be a deal where I don't want to say they're going to get the short end of the stick, but they're not going to get a big name for Hanley and a couple prospects. It's just not going to happen, because the Red Sox are going to be the ones chasing in that situation, and it's not going to happen. It's going to be something like, I hope this doesn't happen, but JBJ and like Devers, the trade, the team really wants those two guys. They'll do anything to get them, but don't have the right pieces to trade for the Red Sox, and the Red Sox will say, hey, you take Hanley and we'll kind of call it even. Something like that, where the Red Sox can be on the offensive of the trade and kind of make the other team kind of strong arm them and say, hey, you got to take Hanley if you want this to go through. But again, he's one of those guys I just don't see moving, because nobody wants him. He's an older guy. He's a handful, to say the least. He's Hanley. He's just a clown, is the best description. Zach Greinke, he's been on the talks for a while about being a Yankee. Even the Phillies got involved. Now I'm hearing the Rangers could be the favorite to land him. Still kind of a long shot that he moves, but the Rangers seem to be the favorite. Yankees are, they're what's going to happen is, if the Yankees don't get Machado, they're going to make a push for Greinke and a couple arms to really solidify their pitching staff, which is already good. So it really is going to depend on either whoever makes the move first, Greinke or Machado. Whoever does, if one of them don't go to the Yankees, they're going to push hard for the other. Or if they don't get Greinke, they're going to push hard for like Fulmer and Garrett Cole or some of these other guys, Chris Archer, guys like that they're going to try and get, and they're willing to pay. As we've seen, they're willing to pay for these guys. Michael Fulmer, the Yankees and the Rangers are the favorite for him. Basically, what it comes down to is whoever doesn't get Greinke, like I said, is going to go after Michael Fulmer. He's like that 1B guy behind Greinke as the number one pitching prospect, in my opinion anyway. So, whoever signs Greinke, they're going to, tip the cap to him, and then they're going to go out. The other team's going to go after Fulmer. I would find it hard to believe that one team is going to get both. If one team does, they are dangerous. So I would assume Greinke will get signed before Fulmer does, or if Fulmer does get signed, for instance, if the Yankees grab him, I would pretty much say, hey, the Yankees got Fulmer. It's looking like the Greinke deal is going to be done soon, and it's not going to be the Yankees. So deals will be, rolling in pretty hot and heavy coming up in the next few weeks anyway. Garrett Cole, another pitcher that really is a big name. Had a great season a couple years ago. It has been, I wouldn't say bad, but I don't know if he's living up to expectations for the Pirates. So he's getting a lot of interest from the Yankees as well. The Yankees are pretty much the main favorite. There's not really any other team that's had a lot of talks besides the Yankees. The Yankees are 5-1. Yeah, the Yankees are 5-1 on landing him, which, another good arm that the Yankees would get, which would just kill a lot of teams in the AL East. Some other names that are kind of on this block. You have Christian Yelich, who I've been really big on him for a couple years now, and I think he's going to be one of those guys that he's not gonna, in my opinion, he's not going to be your MVP, but he's going to be really productive for a team, batting in the 2-hole or something. I really think he's a good 2-hitter for a team. You put him on an AL team with a DH and kind of let him sit in that 2-hole, hit some doubles, get in scoring position for the 3 and 4 hitter. He can be a real asset to a team, and I'm not sure where the talks are really coming from. I've heard pretty scattered things, but he's a guy that I think wherever he goes is going to be productive right away. Other names, you have Chris Archer, great pitcher. Evan Longoria, as I mentioned, with the rumors about the Yankees. So, there's a lot of things floating around. It's really just going to be what sticks with those guys. The biggest names, obviously, everyone's going to hear about are Machado, Greinke, even Fulmer and Cole. But I really, from a pitcher's standpoint, I really am interested to see where Chris Archer goes. He pitched extremely well last year in the World Baseball Classic. Had a pretty good season before that. Last season was okay, but he didn't play for the greatest team. So, you put him on a team that's going to get him 4 or 5 runs, in support. There's no reason he can't be a 16, 17 game winner. Maybe push that 20-game winner if he has a really good year. And then Longoria, there's not much to say about him besides he's just, he's even keeled. He's one of those guys that's going to do his job. He's going to be productive. He's had some injuries. He's getting a little older. He's not going to be your MVP guy anymore, but he's going to be productive wherever he goes, if he goes somewhere. So, a lot of things to watch in the rumor mill for baseball, especially towards as we get closer to pitchers and catchers reporting. So, like I said, we'll just keep an eye on all of that. Just one bit of college football news. Hasn't been signed yet, but FAU is trying to extend Lane Kiffin's contract to 10 more years. That's crazy. I don't know if it'll get done. Not that he can't, I guess, opt out. But for him to sign a 10-year deal at FAU, I think it'll be a little bit of a stretch for them. Obviously, they want to lock him up because he's found success there. Players love Lane Kiffin. So they're going to want him to stick around. I don't know if he'll sign that deal. I was really surprised he wasn't in more talks of leaving and going to, well, he wouldn't go to Tennessee because he was already there and that didn't go well. But going to another team as a head coach, a big, Power 5 school, and that's what I think he wants to do. I think he wants to get back in that Power 5, in those programs, prove that he can be a head coach there. So that 10-year contract has been, I don't know if it's been presented to him, but it's been in the talks anyway, and I think they're going to have to twist his arm a little bit and offer him some sort of compensation that will rival some of those bigger schools, and I don't know if they have the funds to do that. Honestly, I don't know. But as we roll into bowl season, and they play tonight, they play Akron tonight, so we could see, this week maybe he does sign. The talks are going to heat up, especially if they win tonight. I mean, they win a bowl game, they have a really good year. Maybe he really likes it down there in Boca, so we'll see what happens with that. This week, we have 15 bowl games to go over. 15 bowl games. I'm going to make a pick for every one of them, but I'm just going to go over in depth a few that I see the most value in. So we'll get into against the spread now.
It's in! Yes, it's good!
Are you sure what's the final
Yeah!
score?
Miami by 4! You covered! 12!
I covered!
Yes!
What is against the spread?
So the first game is SMU versus Louisiana Tech. So this is the Frisco Bowl. SMU's favored by 5. The over-under is 71. So this is one of those games that I think there's going to be a lot of value. SMU has looked almost unstoppable on offense. They're scoring over 40 a game. Their quarterback, Ben Hicks, the last 3 games, he's done nothing but throw 12 touchdowns. Here's where SMU is having trouble. Their defense is giving up 35.5 points a game. That's a huge concern when you're facing a team like Louisiana Tech, who also has an explosive offense. The big problem for Louisiana Tech is they have that explosive offense, but they turn the ball over a lot and they get a lot of penalties. Which, when you have 2 explosive offenses, all it takes is 1 or 2 turnovers, a few undisciplined penalties that are going to set the drives back, and that's enough for me to think SMU really should be able to capitalize on those mistakes. And realistically, I think they should cover this pretty easily. 5 points, they could blow this game out. I don't think they will. I don't think they're going to win by 30 or anything like that. But if they won by 2 touchdowns, I wouldn't be surprised. Louisiana Tech obviously has a really good team. If they are able to protect the ball and they're disciplined, they're not getting a lot of penalties, this game could be a really close game, and I expect it to be high scoring anyway. But SMU, to me, is a better team, and regardless of the turnovers or anything like that, they're a touchdown better, in my opinion, at least. So I think that there's a lot of value in SMU -5 here. The next game is Temple at Florida International University. So this is the Gasparilla Bowl. These names are incredible. These names are fantastic. So the Gasparilla Bowl is Temple favored by 7. The over-under is 56.5, which my first reaction to this was Temple really didn't have the greatest season, but they should be 7 points better than FIU. And then I took a little deeper look at this. So FIU is going to need to protect the quarterback. Obviously, everybody needs to, but Temple's defensive line, especially their DNs, are 2 of the best in the country. They have 2 of the best. They're 13th in the country in tackles for loss. I mean, Temple's averaging 7.7 tackles for loss per game. That's incredible. They've looked better since they started their quarterback, Frank Newtile, but here's the problem. They're going to need to turn FIU over. So FIU is going to have to make some mistakes for them to win by 7 points. And FIU, their game plan should be anyway, short, simple passes, move the ball, and don't turn it over. It's that simple. And their quarterback, Alex McCow, is what you need. I mean, he's efficient. He's going to try and protect the ball. It doesn't always work. Overall, FIU is, in the games they lost, they're -10 in turnovers. And one of those games was to Alcorn State. So if that doesn't explain to you how important protecting the ball is, and if you didn't know it already, that shows you right there. When you turn the ball over, you lose to Alcorn State. It's that simple. And I think FIU is going to protect the ball. I think Alex McGow is going to have a great game. And he's not going to put up monster numbers, but he'll put up numbers. There's a lot of explosion on that FIU offense. And I think FIU +7 makes the most sense here. So they could. I've seen a lot of analysts and people picking FIU to win outright. They could. I don't think they do, but I think if they lose, it's like a field goal or like, a 4-point game, something ridiculous. I don't think they lose by a whole touchdown unless they start turning the ball over. Then we're in for a show by Temple, honestly. The next game is another game that I think there's a lot of value, and it's the Bahamas Bowl. Congrats to Ohio and UAB for being able to play in the Bahamas Bowl, because that's awesome. I would rather play there than like the Idaho Potato Bowl or something like that. So shout out to Ohio and UAB. Enjoy your time down there. Ohio is favored by 7.5. The over-under is 58.5. Ohio has the most efficient offense in the MAC, which I don't know if any of you. Basically, it's Thursday night football. MACtion. They got some pretty good offenses. Toledo is, to me, by far the best offense. But when I saw Ohio was the most efficient, it kind of surprised me a little bit. So I was like, okay, let's see why else this team is favored by 7.5. Then you see their defense. They have the best defense in the conference. UAB is second in the conference in Conference USA in running the ball. So you have strength on strength there. I think Ohio is going to not necessarily stop UAB, but there's going to be a few drives where they can't move the ball. They're going to be forced to pass, and you could see some trouble there. Ohio's quarterback, Nathan Rourke, is a animal. He is an animal, and he will torch UAB on the ground. He will run all over them. Even if he has to drop back on like a 3rd and 12, if they're not spying him, he's going to pick up those 12 yards easy. He's a killer. He's a killer, man. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest differences is third downs. He's going to help keep Ohio drives alive. UAB has had success this year because they're converting like almost 50% of the time on third downs. And if Ohio is able to stuff the run, they're going to be in 3rd and medium, 3rd and long situations. They're not going to convert half the time. They're not. 30% maybe, but they're not. UAB is a really good team, and they played really well all year. But simply, it comes down to who's the better team, and Ohio's the better team. Ohio is the better team, and I think Ohio minus 7.5. If I could get it lower, I don't think I will, but if you could get that lower, there's huge value. If you get to Ohio minus 7, Ohio minus 6.5, but Ohio minus 7.5, they should cover still. Speaking of the Idaho Potato Bowl, Wyoming at Central Michigan. So this isn't a game that I saw extreme value, but I'm going to pick this game like I said anyway. Wyoming is minus 3. Over-under is 45.5. These two teams are so similar. If you look at the stats, they both are awful converting on third down. They cannot run the ball. The defense, both of them, can force a lot of turnovers. The reports, so this game started out as, I believe, a pick'em, and that was when they didn't know if Josh Allen was going to play or not. Josh Allen plans to play, which I believe is why they got the 3-point edge. I still think Central Michigan plus 3 is the play. Josh Allen, great quarterback, great prospect. It's really his last chance to show how good he is. But he hasn't really, he has a lot of flaws. And Central Michigan, I think, has more playmakers. Wyoming, Josh Allen had a great season last year, but lost a lot of playmakers, and we're starting to see that now. So how is that gonna translate, even into the bowl game against Central Michigan? I just think Central Michigan is a better team overall, and if Josh Allen wasn't playing, I would probably pick Central Michigan outright. But I think Central Michigan keeps this a really close game, and they still have the opportunity, even with Allen playing, to win this game outright. So I'm taking Central Michigan plus 3. The next game is a game that I do find a lot of value, and here's basically the why. When I say these two teams, if you watch college football, you're going to think this game is going to be bananas. So we have the Birmingham Bowl. Not quite the Bahamas Bowl, but Birmingham's nice this time of year, I hear. USF versus Texas Tech. So Texas Tech is known for their offense. First, let's go to this. USF is favored by 2.5. Texas Tech is known for their offense. They had Patrick Mahomes last year, doing the same thing this year. Quick, short passes, let the receivers get in open space and run. A lot of plays. Kingsbury has that team conditioned to, throw up 90 plays a game, stuff like that. USF is no slouch on offense. They are easily one of the better offenses in the country. They have Quentin Flowers. this game's going to be a shootout. That being said, you hear these two teams who easily both could put up 40 points, and you see the over-under at 66. That made me think, like, when I see the matchup, there should be a number that comes to mind. I was thinking 73.5, 72, something in that range. But when I see 66, it seems something just, there's a disconnect. Either I'm not evaluating these teams' offensive potential the way I should be, and I'm giving them more credit than I should, or who knows. But anyway, USF doesn't have a great pass defense, which you need to when you play Texas Tech. And Texas Tech just doesn't turn the ball over that much. Like I said, short, dink and dunk passes. Just let the receivers get in space. Hopefully he breaks a couple tackles and he's off for 75 yards. USF has Quentin Flowers. Now, he's a really good player, but when you pair that with Texas Tech's inability to get to the quarterback, that makes him a little bit more dangerous. Texas Tech is 12th in the Big 12 in tackles for loss and 9th in sacks. So he's going to have all day. All day. If you give him that much time, he's going to find open receivers. He's going to scramble for first downs. The run game's going to be there. You're going to give up points. So even when I see all of that, I don't understand how this total is 66. It opened up at 64.5, and it's jumped to 66. I wouldn't be surprised if we see this jump to 68, 69, possibly 70 before the game kicks off. So I'm really, the value definitely right now, if you get it at 66, is the over. And I'm not going to pick the line just because the matchups, both teams' strengths on offense are the other team's weakness on defense. So it just like they might not get any stops. Like that's what it seems like to me, is there just might not be any stops. So I think the over is a huge value in that game. The Armed Forces Bowl is the next game, which pegs San Diego State against Army. San Diego State's minus 6.5. The over-under is 46. Here's what it comes down to. This game is not one that I see tremendous value in, but here's what I do see. It's as simple as this. Army likes to run the ball. Sometimes that's all they do. They don't even pass it in some games. We've talked about that. San Diego State is 8th in the nation against the rush. You stop Army, they can't throw the ball. I like San Diego State to win and cover 6.5. That's simple. The next game is the Dollar General Bowl. Toledo, which I mentioned how good their offense was, versus Appalachian State. The over-under is 61. Toledo is favored by 7.5. Again, not a lot of value here, but if you were to play this game, here's the thing. App State has a better defense, but are they going to be able to move the ball on the ground? If they are, which I think they will be able to, I think App State's going to be able to control the clock, limit Toledo's offensive possessions, limit their drives, control the ball, don't fumble it, don't turn it over, do anything stupid, and I think they're going to keep this within a touchdown. I take App State plus 7.5. The Hawaii Bowl. This is a game I do see some value in. I do see a lot of value in this game, and it is Houston against Fresno State. And Fresno State had a good year. Houston is favored by 2.5. The over-under is 49.5. Here's the gist of this. Fresno State, you're not going to see their quarterback on the Heisman list. You're not going to see their running back up for awards. Here's what you will see. You'll see a really good offensive line, and you'll see a really good defensive line. I mean, they just do everything right. Their quarterback, Marcus McMaryion, has only thrown 4 picks all year. He doesn't have a boatload of touchdowns, but he protects the ball. If you are going to watch this game, here's what I want you to watch. A defensive lineman for Houston by the name of Ed Oliver. If you don't know him, you should pay attention and you should start to get to know him, because he could be the number 1 pick next year. He is scary talented. And the only reason he's still in college is because you have to be in college for 3 years. That's the only reason. He's as talented as any defensive lineman in the country. He's Myles Garrett good. And I say that with total confidence. I think he's that good. He's going to really have to get after Fresno State's running backs and get after the quarterback, try and force mistakes. And it doesn't happen a lot. Fresno State tries to protect the ball, eat clock, have a low-scoring game. And Houston's going to try and turn that ball over, up the tempo, and get into a shootout. And what they're going to want to do is score on offense, force turnovers on defense, make Fresno uncomfortable in a high-scoring game. $49.5 is a number where even if Houston gets 28 points, I don't think Fresno is going to be able to keep up with them. Offensively, their quarterback, like I said, he protects the ball, but he's not going to be dynamic enough to get into a shootout. And I think Fresno's defense is good enough where if they give up 28 points or give up a couple quick touchdowns, they're good enough to make adjustments so it doesn't get too out of hand. That doesn't mean Houston won't win this game and cover, so I'm not going to take that because I'm not sure in that sense. But the under has hit in the last 5 games for Fresno and 3 of the last 5 for Houston. And the ability of both defenses and the way Fresno wants to play, I think the under's the play. This game could easily be in the 30s. Could be like a 21-10 game or something. So I don't expect a shootout. Even if Houston tries to play that way, I don't think it's going to get to that extent. So the under 49.5 is where I would want to sit in this game. The last, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the last 7 games, there's great games, but we're going to go through them pretty quickly because I don't see a lot of, or huge value. I'll probably play a few of them, but not value like I saw in the 4 that I went over. The Dallas Bowl, Utah, and West Virginia. West Virginia has a lot of guys out, including their quarterback. That's a huge disadvantage. Utah's a really good team. With the amount of guys out, I could see Utah covering the 7. But even with the guys out that WVU has, the defenses of both these teams are pretty average, where we could see this a back and forth game where 56.5 could be tested and we could see the over 56.5. So for the line, I would probably take Utah -7 and I would go over the 56.5. But this is a game I probably won't play just because of all the guys out, and I don't I don't have much confidence in Utah being able to pull away, even with the backups of WVU in. The Quicken Lanes Bowl, Duke and Northern Illinois. Duke's favored by 5. The over-under is 47.5. This is going to be a really good game. It's going to be like a sneaky good game if you're trying to tune into a game. These teams are pretty even, play pretty similar style football. I think Duke could win this game by a late field goal, and should win this game outright. I think Northern Illinois keeps this game close, and they are, like I said, a field goal, and the +5 is the play. I was thinking about it like, hey, maybe a late touchdown or something. It could happen, but I really think if there is value, Northern Illinois +5 is where I would go. The Cactus Bowl, Kansas State and UCLA. Kansas State -2, UCLA, the over-under 65.5 of the Cactus Bowl. Kansas State has issues defending the pass, so this could be a really good opportunity to watch Rosen. Similar to Josh Allen, this is one of his last opportunities to really prove, he's ready for the NFL. K-State, though, I mean, they have games where you're like, okay, they're okay, they're an okay average team, and then they go out and win by 3 touchdowns. So I think K-State will come out. This is a big game against a big-time quarterback to prove they're a good team, and I think they're going to cover the 2. I think they're going to beat UCLA and win this game by maybe 6 points or so. So I think they cover the 2. Florida State against Southern Miss, the Independence Bowl. So this, seeing the Independence Bowl and Florida State together just doesn't make sense, especially with all the expectations for Florida State at the beginning of the year. Obviously a huge letdown season. Florida State's favored by 16.5. The over-under is 49. All that there is to say in this game is Florida State has a gajillion more talent than Southern Miss. Astronomically more talent. And should win this game by 3 touchdowns. That being said, who knows if they're going to show up? Florida State in the Independence Bowl, that's a little tougher to get up for. Southern Miss playing in a bowl game against Florida State, this is their Super Bowl. This is the game that they've been waiting for. This is the national championship. This is everything they wanted all year. So they could keep this game within 16.5. But I just think Florida State, even if they're not, they might get smacked in the mouth in the first quarter. Maybe get down after the first drive or get a 3 or go 3 and out, something like that. And they're going to wake up really fast and say, hold on, like we're Florida State. This doesn't happen to us. And they're going to come back and win this game pretty easily, I think. I think they cover 16.5. The Pinstripe Bowl, Iowa against Boston College. This game is one of those games where initially I thought the under, and I still think the under 45.5 is a good play. Iowa's favored by 2.5. Both teams are extremely good on defense. Extremely good. So that's where the under comes in. Here's what sticks in my mind and probably a lot of people's mind with Iowa. Just what they did to Ohio State. They embarrassed Ohio State. And that, to me, if that team shows up against Boston College, they cover 2.5 really, really easy. And And this game could be over by halftime if that team shows up. So I'm going to take Iowa minus 2.5 with the hopes that it's a bowl game. They're going to show up and be ready to play. So Iowa minus 2.5. I'll keep an eye on that. 45.5. Here's what you want to look for in the 45.5. The weather. Anytime you're up north, you want to check the weather this time of year. If it starts getting snowy and crazy, definitely play the under. That's where I'm waiting for. If the weather's going to be suspect, the Pinstripe Bowl is going to be fun. It's going to be hard hitting, one in the trenches, 10-7 game. Probably not really, but something along those lines where the under could be a really good value in that. The Foster Farms Bowl. Man, where do they come up with these names? I know it's sponsors and stuff, but some of these names are incredible. Arizona against Purdue. Arizona is favored by 3.5. The over/under 65. So normally, I would take Arizona. They have K. Tate, who's a really good player for Arizona. But I'm actually going to take Purdue plus 3.5. And here's the reason why. Purdue's strength is their defense, and more importantly, their rush defense. They've had 3 weeks to prepare for Tate and that Arizona attack, which is enough for me to believe they're going to be able to keep this within a field goal. It's as simple as that. If this was a regular season game, they only had 5 days, 6 days to prepare, I might take Arizona. But when you have 3 weeks to prepare for a guy, now Tate's ability, you can't just emulate and practice. But they're going to have schemes, and they're going to be able to, they're going to be ready for him, is the best way to put it. When you have 3 weeks to prepare, there's no excuse for that. So, barring any just absolute dumpster fires Purdue puts out there, they should keep this within 3 points. And then the last game of the week, the Texas Bowl. Missouri versus Texas. Missouri minus 2.5. Texas, I always do that. Missouri minus 2.5. The over-under is 60.5. I always want to say Texas over-under 60.5. Over-under 60.5 in the Texas Bowl. Missouri's offense is just too good for Texas. They're far more powerful. Texas has looked pretty good of late. They're not good enough. Like I said, I don't see huge value, but there's a reasonable value to play Missouri minus 2.5. They've scored ridiculous points. I forget what game it was, but they scored like 70 something. I mean, they're a good offense, explosive offense. Texas is still trying to figure things out. So if they don't figure it out, they're in for a long Texas Bowl. It's going to be a bloodbath if they don't figure it out. The over-under 60.5 also has some value, but I'm not confident in Texas's offense either, to score 30 points or 28 points or something like that. So I would lean towards Missouri minus 2.5. And that is all of the bowl games for this week. So when I say this week, I mean from the day that I record to the next day the next airing day for the podcast. So it's not a Sunday to Sunday type deal or Sunday to Saturday type deal, so it's a little bit different. But there's a lot of good games on. I mean, there's college football every day except for Christmas, which on Christmas you should be watching the NBA and I guess spending time with family, right? So there's going to be a lot of games on to watch for sure. And then we go to the NBA, like I said, Christmas Day, NBA. Anyway, the NFL. We go to the NFL. And as always, we're going to do some rapid fire NFL stuff here. So we have the Colts at the Ravens. Ravens minus 13.5. I'm taking the Colts plus 13.5. The Vikings and the Packers. So there's no line. I want to check that. I want to update that right now. So when I looked earlier, they don't always have the lines out yet, or at least up to date. So I do have it now. So now that Aaron Rodgers has officially been out, it is the Vikings minus 8.5. I'm taking the Vikings still, no matter what. Minus 8.5. The Bills at the Patriots. Patriots minus 11.5. Taking the Patriots. The Bucks at the Panthers minus 10. The Panthers minus 10. The Browns at the Bears minus 6.5. I'm going to take the Browns. Maybe not win, but they're going to keep it close. And I'm going to take the Browns plus 6.5. The Lions minus 5 at the Bengals. I'll take the Lions minus 5. The Dolphins at the Chiefs minus 10. The Chiefs are starting to figure it out a little bit. I'm going to take the Chiefs minus 10. The Falcons at the Saints. The Saints are minus 5.5. I'm going to take the Falcons. The Falcons need to, they pretty much have to win out. And they know that. And we're playing in a dome. So I'm going to take the Falcons plus 5.5. The Chargers minus 6.5 at the Giants. I'm taking the Chargers minus 6.5. The Rams minus 6.5 at the Titans. The Rams look really good. I'm taking the Rams. After what they did last week and what Gurley did, I'm definitely taking the Rams. The Broncos at the Redskins. Redskins minus 3.5. I'm gonna take the Broncos minus 3.5 just because it's over a field goal. If it was 2.5, I'd take the Redskins, but I'm taking the Broncos plus 3.5. The Jags minus 4.5 at the 49ers. I'm on the Jimmy G train. I can't against the Jaguars. I just think they're so good, and that defense is so good. I'm going to take the Jags minus 4.5. The Giants at the Cardinals. Cardinals minus 3.5. I'm going to take the Giants plus 3.5. The Seahawks at the Cowboys. Cowboys minus 5. This opened up at 2.5 and it's now minus 5. I'm going to take the Cowboys minus 5. The Steelers minus 9.5 at the Texans. The Steelers are going to come back with a vengeance against the Texans. And I feel really bad for what's about to happen to the Texans. The Steelers are going to win very convincingly. And then the Raiders at the Eagles. Eagles minus 9. I am going to take the Eagles minus 9 to wrap up the NFL week. And now we'll move on to what to watch for. So here's what it comes down to. Very simple what to watch for. One, you have all these college football games. Like I said, every single day except Christmas, you have a college football game. So there's no excuse that there's nothing on, because college football will be on. Saturday, you have some good college basketball games. 2 real important ones. I wouldn't say important, but 2 I think could be potential upset games or big games. Ohio State at number 5 UNC at 1:30 on Saturday. Number 7 Kentucky at UCLA at 4 o'clock on Saturday. Those are going to be 2 really good games to watch for. And then on Christmas Day, if you want some NBA basketball, that's the day to watch it. 3 o'clock, Cavs, Warriors. 5:30, Wizards, Celtics. And to wrap up the Christmas evening, at 8 o'clock, Rockets and Thunder. And that game's probably going to be the least interesting because the Thunder have been playing pretty bad. But going up against the Rockets, I expect Russ and those guys to pick it up a little bit. They're in a bad shape right now. So that game once looked like a potential 1 or 2 seed, fight, and now it looks like the Rockets are 1 or 2 seed, and the Thunder are maybe going to limp into the playoffs. Maybe they'll limp in. They don't look very good, but they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out for sure, guys. It is a fantastic week. It's bowl season. We got Christmas Day basketball. We have Christmas. Enjoy Christmas. Enjoy the holidays. 'Tis the season. 'Tis bowl season. 'Tis the season to open gifts, spend time with family. Have a great holiday. Have a great week. If you have time off, enjoy it. Until next time, guys.